to the people who receive such gifts. And we gotta thank you. Just today I read it from the drug court. It shows something also about the values of the giver. You see, Joey was making sure that Phyllis's hard-earned life was invested in a place that she would have cared about. We put our treasure where our heart is. Now, generally, people think fondly of money. We like to have it, and we would like more of it if possible. If we had a little more disposable income, a person could do more good beyond merely covering those necessary bills I mentioned at the beginning. You see, the more discretionary wealth that we have at our command, the more of an impact we might have on those matters about which we are concerned. The more we'll be able to support the things that we really value. Money is, as I said when I was talking to you as children, it's a publicly accepted medium of exchange that is legal tender for all debts, public and private. Money itself, then, is not the root of all evil, unless we let it go bad by our choices. Money is just as able to do a lot of good if the person chooses to do so. Money is not the problem. It's where our values and our heart is. There's no doubt in our society that money talks. The problem is we don't always like what money is saying. Some people who have inherited a whole lot of money do not have the same values as the generations before them from whom the assets derived. Sam Walton's values, for example, did not pass along to his wealthy heirs of the Walmart fortune. He was proud to buy American, but his children insisted that the vendors produced their items more cheaply by moving their manufacturing overseas, primarily to China, so they could always have a lower price, always. Dave Thomas, the founder of Wendy's Hamburgers, also would probably not have bought tomatoes from Mexico and elsewhere overseas, as they do now, in order to avoid the extra 50 cents a bushel that was required by Wendy's former Florida tomato growers. See, money is not an end in itself. It's a means toward other ends. Now, some of those uses of accumulated wealth may build up the common good, like the worldwide philanthropy of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Amazing what they're doing throughout the world. Or locally, the Jesse Besser Foundation, or the United Way, on whose board I now serve, gratefully so. Or in some small way, our own Comstock Fund. But it's glaringly obvious that a great many uses of money, of wealth today, is being used to concentrate power in the hands of fewer and fewer people at the expense of the many. Money talks. Have you been listening lately to what it's been saying? As I said, we generally are very positive about having money. Most of us would like to have more of it. But the messages that control our financial behavior may be based on a guilty feeling that we have too much money, we shouldn't have this much. Or maybe it's on our fear that we have too little. The reality of how wealthy or poor we actually are may have less to do with it than our memories and feelings from our childhood and the messages about money that came with it. Let me give you an example using, if I may, my own family. You know it is not my custom to speak from this pulpit about the Lance family. But my mother, Dodie, her father, worked for J.C. Penney, store manager his whole life till he retired, and he also sold insurance. And he saved every penny, and he put it away for a rainy day. My dad's father, on the other hand, a dirt poor rancher and game warden, wanted his family to have everything. And so it was my mom who grew up worried about money. She was unable to spend it, even though her family had plenty. But my dad grew up giving money away, even though they had little. I grew up in the tension between my mother's frugal money messages and my father's more prodigal attitude. My mom wanted every bill paid in full as it came in. Her side of the family bought insurance policies on each of us 5 kids as investments. I never got that. I'm still alive 65 years later. And you didn't get any money back, did you, Grandpa? Well, he's gone now, so strike that one too. I misspeak as often as I speak well from the pulpit. But my dad, on the other hand, he put our family deep into mortgage debt in order that we might live well in the present, knowing that he would be good for it over time. Time payments would even everything out. And there's a lot of that notion. You buy it now and you pay for it over time. You live on your credit. There's a lot of that in today's world. People seem to be addicted to their credit cards. They're maxed out. They're paying exorbitant fees for the privilege of borrowing money from the bank at 21% interest. Wish I could get that from an investment. Now, to my dad, debt was a measure of how much people trusted him. Enough to invest in him, in his idea of a business, a construction company, a ski repair shop, or whatever he had as a vision. My father's financial hero was Walt Disney, who he met when he was a banker out in Anaheim, California. Walt Disney, at that point, went $5 million in debt in order to build Disneyland. And it was just secured with Walt's dream and his good name that he'd be good for it. Now, for my dad, having a dream to pursue and having a good name, having a reputation of integrity and a work-hard ethic would lead, he was sure, eventually to great things, regardless of the debts that one had to take along the way to get there. A debt to my mom, on the other hand, was so fearful that we kids were taught to rinse out our paper cups and dry them for later use. We turned over the Kleenex, so we made sure we used both sides of it. And when we went out to eat, we 5 kids learned that it was best just to order the cheapest thing on the menu, regardless of whether you wanted to eat that or not. In fact, it was that where the conflicting messages about money came clear to me. My dad would read down the menu, food items first, choosing what he wanted. My mom would read from the price side first. She looked to see what that food item was. And if it wasn't altogether bad, she would choose the cheapest item on the menu. If she didn't want that because it was liver and onions, then she looked at the next one, chicken. I guess I could have chicken. Different principle. I have inherited the money messages from both of my parents, as well as from my own experiences. And from Patty's also, because after all, my money is her money too. Our house here in Alpena, for example, and the one out in Long Beach, is held in joint ownership, as are our bank accounts, both here in Alpena and in California. My flamboyant disregard for money is kept well in bounds by Patty's careful, frugal, fiscal attention to detail. And I'm grateful that she handles the finances in our family, or there wouldn't be any. Because my family lived in the biggest house in town, in Cadillac it was the Cobb Mansion, built by the lumber baron of Wexford County. And if you ever go there, take a look at it. It's on the historical registry and it's in their brochures. Visit Cadillac and see the Cobb Mansion. Now there's 5 apartments in that house. We used to have it just for our 5 kids. And here in Alpena, some of you probably know, our home was 240 State Avenue, where Dr. Currier now lives, right next to Bayview Park. So some folks thought we were rich because we lived rich. We had beautiful property, a big house, but because we were hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt due to those mortgages and to those business investments, we could not afford what our friends had. We couldn't take trips as a family like our friends did. We shopped at flea markets and rummage sales. This is before Goodwill became such a good shopping center. I wore my brother's hand-me-downs. Now, he was just 1 year older than me, so I grew into them easily enough. I wore Ron's hand-me-down clothes every year from childhood in Cadillac through high school in Alpena. And my mom once boasted to the neighbors that she fed her family of 7 for just 77 cents. Top ramen noodles, freeze-dried with veggies and spices in a styrofoam cup. They were on sale that week for 11 cents a piece at Cunningham's drugstore, and one for each of us. Just add the hot water. I remember that meal. And I remember my mom boasting about it to her friends, about all the money she saved in feeding her family. Now, these are just a couple of my memories about money matters in my family. I share them as examples of how your own memories of money will tell you a lot. If you just take a moment, step back, and think, what did I learn about money? If you see what they taught you about who you are relative to earthly treasures, about how money matters work in the world. And I suggest you do so because I want you to take control of your money instead of letting old messages dictate the terms. In today's text, Jesus said, do not seek what you are to eat or what you are to drink or be of anxious mind. All the nations of the world seek these things, and your Father God knows that you need them. Instead, seek his kingdom, and these things will be yours as well. Fear not, little flock, for it's your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom.